Hare Krishna. It is Wednesday, 9/14, 2022. My name is Garuda Das. I am giving Bhagavad Gita class, Bhagavad Gita experience. We're going to have an experience of the Bhagavad Gita tonight. Um, I'm not sure where I'll begin, but I think I want to connect to expressing my gratitude and to Srila Prabhupada. Nama Om Vishnu Badaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Tinamani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaurvani Pacharni Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschete Deshatarni. Thank you, Srila Prabhupada, for this opportunity to take a look, maybe take a deeper look at the Bhagavad Gita. I know it's been that process for me. Every time I give a class, I really kind of sit where I'm at and kind of meditate on like what's happening for me in my Krishna consciousness. And that's what I did with, I don't know, hopefully putting together some intention for this class or some focus, some area of the Bhagavad Gita to focus on. This past, I'd say about 5-6 weeks, I've been going out and distributing books and chanting the holy name in public. And that's been a transformational experience for me. Stretching myself, being vulnerable and uncomfortable, nervous, all sorts of feelings come up for me, excitement, a lot of fear. So that's what I was kind of connecting with this particular class tonight. And I want to, we're looking at Bhagavad Gita as it is by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, yeah, so part of going out and sharing book with the community has been, like I said, it's been a transformational experience for me. Just kind of seeing personally how it's really been supportive for me to like really gain some clarity on like, you know, what I'm even doing with this particular practice that I'm following, that I'm giving myself to. And one thing that I've connected with, Mother Malini actually inspired me going out and sharing books with her. I noticed that she was showing pictures of the Bhagavad Gita like pretty early off on some exchanges with individuals on the street. And that got me kind of like playing with that myself. And I really like that a lot because it's, you know, something that I personally connected with early off was some particular images in the Bhagavad Gita. The pictures that I'm about to show you are around like page like 500 in this volume, 500 and maybe 10 or something like that. I'm not sure the exact page this particular photo is, but this one of the chariot with the horses and the senses, that was kind of where I started, which actually is the one that I saw Mother Malini share with an individual on the street. But this particular image, for me, they're called plates. I'm not really even sure why they're called plates, but maybe somebody could inform me at that time sometime, or maybe I'll find out at some point. I'll really kind of look into it. But anyway, plate 23 is what it's called. And it just really was easy for me to see really clearly, like, oh yes, this has definitely been me in my life. The horses representing the senses, and the reins, the brain, and the driver is the intelligence, and the spirit soul is way in the back. And I don't know if you can see, but you probably have your own Bhagavad-Gita, but you can probably see that the spirit soul is not doing so well, and the intelligence looks a little bit kind of out of it, like it's not really you know driving in a very conscious way. It looks bewildered, and then the soul looks terrified. Um, and so I could relate to this in my life where where I, if I didn't use my brain, maybe use my intelligence to control my brain, to control my senses, that you know I was on some like horrific rides, directly horrific rides. Some of them led me to the hospital and rehab and things like that. But anyway, so I could personally relate to this, yeah, without like regulating my senses and the results of that. So that was like the first picture that I was kind of connecting with. And then I really like the one across the way from it. This analogy of this little story about the sparrow. And so the sparrow laid her egg on the seashore. Not really sure why she did that. I don't know if that was a good idea. But anyway, so she did this, and the waves came and took her egg away. And, of course, right? But anyway, that's what happened. And then she wanted her egg back, and she, basically requested the ocean, please give me my egg back. And the ocean's, just playing, having a good time. And it's like, no. And so the sparrow's like determined to get her egg back. This is her baby. She's going to get it back. So she decides she's going to dry up the ocean. So she's scooping up water and she's bringing it inland and dumping it. And she's going back and forth and back and forth. And my understanding, because I've heard this, I've read this a couple different times. I haven't seen anyway, I guess there's one part of the story where the animals really kind of like, they think it's a big joke. Like she gets a lot of feedback and like, just like you're hopeless, or just like laughing. Like it's really kind of a big joke what you're doing. There's no way you're going to dry up the ocean with your beak. And the sparrow's like doesn't care. She's like, I'm getting my egg back. I'll do whatever it takes. I'm, going to give my life to this. And so Garuda finds out about it. He hears about this sparrow doing this, and he feels so like just deeply moved. He's touched by it. It's such a beautiful devotion the sparrow has for her child, and trying to get her egg back. And basically Garuda in the end, tells the ocean, give her back her egg. And the ocean is apparently subordinate to Garuda. Garuda has some special powers and abilities to, tell the ocean, give her egg back. And so the ocean gives the sparrow her egg back. And I really like this analogy as well, because it's like, seeing like how much devotion that we have. Like I can see for myself in my own life, like if I'm consistent and I'm persistent, no matter what the world is telling me, oh, you look foolish singing on the corner, wearing whatever you're wearing, and dancing and singing, and distribute whatever, and then in my life I'm seeing like with this practice, like the more I devote myself, the more I commit myself, the more persistent I am, I perceive experiencing like divine intervention and support. Maybe not directly from Garuda, particularly, but I've had direct experiences with Krishna and dreams, giving me direct guidance and support. Srila Prabhupada speaking to me directly through his Vani. And I know that it was because of my determination, my commitment, and my steadiness, which the Sparrow is, really showing us that the results of that through that story. So I really, really like that story a lot. So, and I haven't really kind of connected to the community, strangers in public with this particular analogy yet, or this story. And I think I will in the future. I was just like, I was appreciating using the chariot analogy to convey like a paradigm or perspective that the Bhagavad Gita gives us. And then, looking deeper, I was like, when I was thinking about this class, I was thinking about, okay, yeah, I'm going out, distributing book, I'm sharing this, okay, and I really like using pictures. And so I was like, okay, well, let me look at the other pictures in here as well. So I flipped a lot, most of them. I feel like I have a lot of research to do to fully understand them, because I feel like I get these really solidly, but a lot of the other ones, I'm just kind of like, I don't know what's going on here. So I'm gonna go to one next that is going to be the main part of this particular class, because I was like, well, let me just pick one, and I'll really, and I, even though like I focused on this next one for the class, like I still feel like I'm still like there's a lot that I still don't really understand about it. But I'm going to go to plate 14. It's on page 500. I'm going to show it real quick, and then it's this one here. Yeah, where it's the living entity is covered by different degrees of lust. And there's parts of it that I understand, but then there's some other parts that I'm still like, especially this here, with the beast and the mirror. I understand. Well, I'll get into like the verse connected to this. We're going to go there next. So that is chapter 3, and it's text 38 is that exact text related to that particular picture for that plate. But I want to go to 37. We're going to do 37 and 38. So it's chapter 3, text 37 and 38. And what on this particular, I read 38, and I really appreciated it, but I found that reading 37 was really supportive for me to kind of have a more in-depth understanding of 38. That was my experience anyway. So, and I have to get there. So 37 and 30. We're going to go to 37 first. And I'm going to do, I'm just going to go to the English translation, because I'm still struggling a lot with Sanskrit. So this is chapter 3, text 37. The blessed Lord said, "It is lust only, Arjuna, which is born of contact with the material modes of passion, and later transformed into wrath, and which is the all-devouring sinful enemy of this world." So that's pretty intense. So I'm going to read the purport now by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. When a living entity comes in contact with the material creation, his eternal love for Krishna is transformed into lust in association with the mode of passion. In other words, the sense of love of God becomes transformed into lust, as milk in contact with sour tamarind is transformed into yogurt. Then again, when lust is unsatisfied, it turns into wrath, and wrath is transformed into illusion, and illusion continues the material existence. Therefore, lust is the greatest enemy of the living entity, and it is lust only which induces the pure living entity to remain entangled in the material world. Wrath is the manifestation of the mode of ignorance. These modes exhibit themselves as wrath and other corollaries. If therefore the modes of passion, instead of being degraded into the modes of ignorance, are elevated to the modes of goodness by the prescribed method of living and acting, then one can be saved from the degradation of wrath by spiritual attachment. So I'm going to pause there for a moment because I find that if I read too much, then I usually forget by the time I get to the end all all the content, because there's like a lot. It always feels like a lot. Like one paragraph is like there's a lot here. So the main thing that I want to just kind of bring to light is like, so eternally we have our love for Krishna, and an aspect of our love is service. That is, it's like it's inherently part of us. We can't like detach from service. We can't separate ourselves from it. It's like it's our nature to serve. Um, and so my understanding is when we come into the material world, when we make contact in this into the material um, world, um, that we're covered, and we've forgotten like who we are, what is our relationship with Krishna, um, where we came from, um, and even aspects of ourselves. So immediately we use our inherent nature, um, service, in the context that we have, which is our senses. Um, and so we fall into this like paradigm of giving our service to our senses because we lack transcendental knowledge at this point. Um, um, so um, and yeah, so this service gets turned into, instead of love for Krishna, the service, it's focused on our senses, so it goes into lust. So anything that isn't like um service to Krishna, it's basically lust, um according to this, you know, this philosophy, this paradigm. um so we try to satisfy this lust to no ends, and hopefully we, you know, get to the point where we start to inquire about like, you know, maybe there's something more to this because I'm not satisfied. And then the next paragraph kind of goes into that, I guess into that space. But what I also wanted to point out here was that if we have the prescribed method of living and acting, which is the transcendental knowledge, then we can turn our focus away from our senses into Krishna's senses and serving Krishna with our senses. Um, and we can instead of going further into, you know, lust and wrath and further entanglement into illusion, um, we can pull ourselves back the other direction. So what I'm seeing clearly here is like it's really important to know who we are and our relationship with Krishna or God, and how to live life, how to conduct ourselves, um, to like steer us back to our like original like congruence and our original position, uh, where we come from in the spiritual world. So I'm going to go to the next paragraph now. So the Supreme Personality of Godhead expanded himself into many for his ever increasing spiritual bliss. And the living entities are parts and parcels of this spiritual bliss. They also have partial independence, but by misuse of their independence, when the service attitude is transformed into the propensity for sense enjoyment, they come under the sway of lust. This material creation is created by the Lord to give facility to the conditioned souls to fulfill these lustful propensities. And when they are completely baffled by prolonged lustful activities, the living entities begin to inquire about their real position. So this particular paragraph kind of goes into, okay, so Krishna expanded himself, and that's how we came into existence. And we have independence. We have choice. We have free will. That's what the independence is. We have free will to, act how we want to act and live how we want to live. Um, um, and, you know, I was kind of reading here, like, at the end, it was kind of going into, how the conditioned souls get completely baffled by prolonged lustful activities. And then the living entities begin to inquire about the real position. And I feel like that's so fortunate. That's so fortunate if somebody actually gets to that place where they're, feel like they've chewed the chewed, they've exhausted this process to no end. But for me, I mean, I don't know, maybe it's my own perception. It seems like most individuals that I see in the world, and even for myself, well, I guess for myself it was a little different, but I guess I feel like individuals that as a whole, there's like repeat over and over and over again, and they're not necessarily getting to the place where they're inquiring deeply about like, okay, well, I'm not I'm not ever satisfied. There's always something new. I'm not saying that's true for everybody. I'm just saying like it seems like there's, you know, so I don't know. I'm kind of like thinking about for myself, like I know I got to the point in my life where I felt like, okay, if I keep going down this road, I'm not going to be in my body anymore. I'm gonna like kill myself. That's basically the direction that I was going. And I was like, well, you know, I don't know if I want to go down that road. Maybe there's something more to life that I'm missing that I'm not seeing. So for me, it was kind of like I had that realization of something like, okay, well, let me give it a shot. Let me give reality, sobriety. Let me give life a shot to maybe find some purpose and meaning in existing. Because where I was at in my younger years, I was just like, there's no point in existing. We're just like all working and we're pursuing things and we're enjoying. Like everybody's doing a different variation of that. Some look healthy, some look not so healthy, but it seemed like the same. Everybody's going through motions and emotions, and there's really no purpose here. At least that's where I was at. So that's why I guess I'm connecting to like, oh, it's so fortunate if someone actually starts to inquire about, their real position, and maybe there is a bigger purpose in life than what I'm experiencing. Um, so I'm going to go to the next paragraph. This inquiry is the beginning of the Vedanta Sutras, wherein it is said, Attato Brahma Jnanyasa, one should inquire into the Supreme. And the Supreme is defined in the Srimad Bhagavatam as Jnanya Yasya Yato Nadyad itirastas cha, or the origin of everything is the supreme Brahman. Therefore, the origin of lust is also in the supreme. If therefore lust is transformed into love for the supreme, or the transformed into Krishna consciousness, or in other words, desiring everything for Krishna, then both lust and wrath can be spiritualized. Hanuman, the great servitor of the Lord Rama, engaged his wrath upon his enemies for the satisfaction of the Lord. Therefore, lust and wrath, when they are employed in Krishna consciousness, become our friends instead of our enemies. So, I was really kind of, you know, connecting with this and like, because someone, at least for myself, okay, I'll speak for myself, like, okay, like, when I used to think about lust and I was raised in Christian upbringing, and so lust was like it's like that's not like we need to not be lustful or not be wrathful, or like there's certain aspects. God has these aspects but he doesn't have these aspects, or it just seemed like there was some like division. Whereas like it's clearly pointing out this paradigm that if everything is emanating from Krishna, then this lust propensity must come from Krishna as well. Um, so, and then, I was appreciating like looking at like, you know, um, it, anything that we do, if it's employed in Krishna consciousness, it becomes our friend instead of our enemies. Like, anything like our senses, our mind, like um, anything that we engage in or any activity, if it's employed in Krishna consciousness, it becomes like it serves us instead of like, degrades us deeper. If you like take Krishna out of the equation, and it can go the opposite direction and degrade us more. Um, so um, yeah, so I guess that's why I kind of wanted to share text 37 um, before 38. And I'm not in this moment, I'm not really seeing like the relationship, but let me go into 38 and then, maybe it'll all come together. Because I was feeling earlier when I was really kind of meditating on this, I was like, yes, 37 and 38 go together, and it's important for this particular image for me personally. So I'm going to read text 38. Okay, so text 38, I'm going to read the translation. As a fire is covered by smoke, as a mirror is covered by dust, or as the embryo is covered by the womb, similarly, the living entity is covered by different degrees of lust. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. There are 3 degrees of covering of the living entity by which his pure consciousness is obscured. This covering is but lust under different manifestations, like smoke in a fire, dust on the mirror, and the womb about the embryo. When lust is compared to smoke, it is understood that the fire of the living spark can be a little perceived. In other words, when the living entity exhibits his Krishna consciousness slightly, he may be likened to the fire covered by smoke. Although fire is necessary, where there is smoke, there is no overt manifestation of fire in the early stage. This stage is like the beginning of Krishna consciousness. The dust on the mirror refers to the cleansing process of the mirror of the mind by so many spiritual methods. The best process is to chant the holy names of the Lord. The embryo covered by the womb is an analogy illustrated a helpless position. For the child in the womb is so helpless that he cannot even move. This stage of the living condition can be compared to that of trees. The trees are also living entities, but they have been put in such a condition of life by such a great exhibition of lust that they are almost void of all consciousness. The covered mirror is compared to the birds and the beasts, and the smoke covered fire is compared to the human being. In the form of a human being, the living entity may revive a little Krishna consciousness. And if he makes further development, the fire of spiritual life can be kindled in the human form of life. By careful handling of the smoke and the fire can be made ablaze. Therefore, the human form of life is a chance for the living entity to escape the entanglement of material existence. In the human form of life, one can conquer the enemy of lust by cultivation of Krishna consciousness under able guidance. Yeah, so 37, I had I'm seeing now or 37 connected me to 38 because I kind of wanted to really know more about like lust, like where does it come from? Why is it there? And what do we do with it? And I feel like 37 really kind of like goes over those kind of things. Like, okay, what is this lust about? You know, what do we do with it? And like, you know, how does it, where's the origin of it? And then, from Krishna, directly, and then how does it, support us, um, in our Krishna consciousness or I don't know, coming back to our original consciousness? How does lust support us in that process? And then looking at text 38, and I want to go back to the picture that was on page 500. Yes. So, yeah. So, when I was looking at the picture, I was like, okay, so 38 really kind of goes into, it talks about the human form of life a lot, like the spark, the fire that's covered by smoke. There's like a little flame that's covered by smoke. And then we give ourselves to this Krishna conscious process, that we can kindle that and that fire and really get it ablaze, with again our like commitment and focus and determination. I'm seeing to keep that fire ablaze because I'm even seeing for myself like times in my own process where it felt like the fire is blazing, and then other times it felt like I'm covered by smoke, and then kind of like it's not been a process where I'm a full blaze fire and I'm staying that way. It's like, oh, okay, now actually I put some wet wood on the fire, and that's not even burning well, just due to my activities and my choices, decisions that I've made for myself. So I can see, that analogy really clearly. And then for myself, and then kind of looking at like the embryo in the tree, that the baby in the womb is kind of helpless, and there's not much activity there. There's not much activity until you come out. And then I would imagine being in a plant entity, or being in a plant body, not a plant entity, but being in a plant body, how uh, you know uh, how challenging it potentially would be to realize anything other than you're just there. um so like I'm seeing this as like different degrees of covering. And then I'm also seeing this image as like, because it did express in this verse about where did it specifically about the tree, where it's, oh, here it is. The trees are also living entities, but they have been put in a condition of life by such great exhibition of lust that they are almost void of all consciousness. So what I'm seeing is like, and I never really thought about this before. Maybe you could give me some feedback, or I don't know if I'm like seeing this clearly or not, because I'm starting to kind of understand this, is that um if we choose to like overindulge into lustful activities, that we potentially would create a tree life for ourselves in the future. That is a um the result of, and I'm sure, I'm just guessing by this word, such a great exhibition of lust. What is your sense of that word, Mother Anasuya?
So it's a great exhibition of lust, that they
Yeah.
are almost void of all consciousness. So to me, that's the living entity just not being aware of God at all, because there's no concept. There's no they have no
It's so
recognition.
covered.
They're so
They're
covered, they don't recognize anything other than their existence as a tree. And so so yes, so that's why I think it's such a great exhibition of lust, is because there's just no God consciousness at all.
yeah.
I'm feeling
Okay.
it, or if there is, it's so small that it's not getting any attention from the tree. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that word itself is like kind of getting me, the exhibition. What is your understanding of that word?
Yeah. Exhibit. It's exhibiting, right? It's exhibiting behavior.
Yeah.
Exposition. It's an
Okay.
exhibition.
So
It's
it's,
exhibiting. Yeah.
you're not seeing any activity or,
Exactly.
oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Now
there's
I'm
no
under,
activity. You're exhibiting nothing. So to me, it's like the blank slate. There's
okay.
nothing going on.
Right, right. Huh. Interesting. Yeah. So um like in a spirit soul in that condition, um it's very dormant, it seems
Dense.
like,
It's
it's
really
really,
dense, dark.
yeah,
I would think, really hard to see anything other than what, like the embryo in the womb is really dark. It's no light, and I would think, again, because there's no movement, so there's no recognition of God, because it's just dark and it doesn't know what's going on, and it's just being held. And so the tree doesn't go anywhere either, and it's held by its root system. So it's in one place. It's not going to move, and it doesn't
yeah,
care. It doesn't care because it doesn't know any better.
yeah. It's just existing on, hopefully the quality of the environment around it.
Yeah, the nutrients it's getting from the root system, whatever that root system is. So, I love that kind of analogy, because you can see like what we can take from how we feed, how we water the plant, right? So what nutrients are we giving the tree? So
Yeah,
if we're out doing our Sankirtan movement and we're singing the glories of the Lord's name, maybe the tree gets a little bit of a taste, like, oh, let me hear, like maybe let me hear, and maybe the denseness is somehow lifted a little bit.
yeah, yeah, yeah. There's like that, or the sound vibration, since it's spiritual, it's able to penetrate into the spirit soul occupying that tree.
Density. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, because I've heard Srila Prabhupada say, and then read various places that, the all the plants, all the organisms benefit from the chanting of the holy name, spiritual benefit from it. And then, seeing how there's a progression of like, going into the animal, body that can move, has more like, um, processing happening in its consciousness, and its feeling. We can look at like, you know, beast, animals, not only like do they have intelligence, they also have personalities, distinct personalities. And I really am seeing that more and more each day. Like even a reptile, I wouldn't even think, oh, does reptiles have personalities? But yes, absolutely they do. Like, different, you know, pets that I've seen people keep, these reptiles have different, some are more, friendly, some are more timid, some are more aggressive, some are more, so it's like you can see like there's a higher level of consciousness there, with the beast. But I'm curious about the mirrors. I know that, it says specifically that cleansing the mirror so the beast can see itself more clearer. Like, why is the mirror associated with the beast? What is your feelings on that? I'm a little bit I want to know more about that.
Yeah, I don't know for sure, for this is just what's happening for me.
Yeah.
Because when I looked at the plate, I don't understand it, because he's roaring at the, his mouth is open, his teeth are kind of exposed, and he's, you kind of see the image of him. So
Yeah.
it feels like he really is covered a lot with dust. Like he's got a lot going on for him. And
Yeah.
when I read the part that says the dust on the mirror refers to a cleansing process of the mirror of the mind by so many spiritual methods, then that's helpful, but I don't know how it relates to in the next paragraph where you were reading that the covered mirror is compared to the birds and beasts. So again, there is a distinction, right? That Dear Govinda always says is that animals have, they also have their mating, defending, eating, sleeping, but they don't have this consciousness. They don't have the capacity to understand or apply this knowledge, as you were saying. Like as a human being, we're able to take this information and by our free will, we decide whether or not we want to accept it and embrace it and come to Krishna consciousness. Whereas an animal's always just going to be worrying about where's this next meal coming from and who he's going to have, lioness with the lioness he wants to dominate to have more kids and
Yeah.
defend his territory. And so there's no thought other than doing those activities. So it feels like there's no possibility of cleansing the dust for an animal, because that's just what an animal does.
Yeah, so you're looking at like, the animal's experiences, their consciousness, eating, sleeping, mating, defending, and they don't have the opportunity that we do as human beings to inquire about the absolute. They don't have the capacity or the opportunity in their beast body. But you're looking at too, like, and this is where I'm big question mark, like, why is the mirror associated with the beast and the birds if the mirror represents the cleansing of the mind and the cleansing process. It says there's different cleansing processes, but the main one, in this particular age that we're getting, is to chant the holy names. So I'm curious about this, and I'm going to be asking some other devotees to elaborate more on, you know, why is it the mirror is associated with the beast?
Yeah,
You
I
know?
don't still understand the mirror, but the best process to chant the holy names of the Lord reminds me of Chaitanya Charita, because there's a
Mm.
pastime of Lord Chaitanya in the forest, and he's chanting and dancing, and all the animals join him. Like all
Mm,
the animals are chanting the Maha Mantra and dancing, and
yeah,
and then they're like even embracing each other. Like the lion is embracing like a deer and giving the deer
yeah,
a kiss. And it's like, so unimaginable and inconceivable that, someone who would have already just ripped that deer apart and had it for dinner is now kissing and hugging and singing the Maha Mantra. So, part of that says, there is something that was experienced over 500 years ago, where the animals in the forest acted that way when Lord Chaitanya went through the forest singing the Maha Mantra. So it's confusing, and it's also like amazing, and like maybe there is a possibility for even a lion and a deer to get Krishna consciousness when Lord Chaitanya was on the earth. But we got covered up again. And so now they can't do that.
Yeah. It was that one opportunity they had.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I appreciate you bringing up that pastime, because I do, I'm familiar with that as well. And it's just like so like far out that it's just like to try to imagine like real animal. I could see cartoon animals doing
Yeah.
this, but
Yeah.
real life animals doing this is just like what? Um, so maybe in that particular situation, they were able to, cleanse the mirror and see that,
Yeah.
hey, maybe I'm not a tiger and maybe you're not a deer, and we're spirit souls and we're associated with that guy. Something like that, something to where they had such a awareness and realization that it just brought them all together in this joyous celebration of we're realizing our mirror is clean and we can see clearly who we are.
Yeah, a spirit soul.
So yeah, so in that context I could see how this mirror possibly work.
Yeah. Except that he's not looking very like kissing a deer there though. So he's very, very he's roaring. He's got his teeth and he's ready to eat something.
Yeah, or even like he maybe feels threatened by another tiger in the mirror, or leopard
yeah.
in the mirror.
Oh,
You know
true.
what I
Yeah,
mean?
he's defending. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so something like that is happening where if his mirror is covered and he can't see clearly who he is, then he's like aggressive toward the mirror. I don't know, I'm just kind of talking about it and looking at it because I mean these pictures. I know one thing that I did want to share is like I I have these letters. I forget the name of the books, but there's a collection of books that Srila Prabhupada was response to letters that were sent to him. Do you know the books that
Well, there
I'm
are
describing?
books that are just full of Prabhupada's letters. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
they're
The Mother
only the
Melanie has.
response.
Yeah.
They're only the response that Srila Prabhupada made. It's not the original letters.
Okay.
And what I learned from reading them, because he has a whole section, or not Srila Prabhupada, but the devotees that put these books together, they separate it in different sections, different topics like art, and the literature, the writing process. But anyway, what I wanted to share was what I learned just from reading those books, that Srila Prabhupada was extremely particular about every single brush stroke, every single tiniest aspect of the images in these paintings, to where he had devotees paint the paintings all the way over again, or change. He would change if an artist assigned to do something deviated from Srila Prabhupada's, like, this is what this painting will look like.
Yeah.
If they did, then Srila Prabhupada made them do it again, or even redo the whole thing. And it really got me appreciating, and he not only did that with the paintings, but he also did that when the books were actually being, right before they were being published, he reread them, and if he saw any deviations or any changes, he went out of his way. So it's not like he just whimsically like put these books. This is like so intentional. It's like extremely intentional. And it also gave me like more faith
Mm,
in Srila Prabhupada and this practice, because he was like so like this has to be exactly this way
mm,
for a purpose. And it's the purpose is that we get the Bhagavad Gita as it is, truly as it is. So I did want to point that out. And I recommend any devotees to really kind of read Srila Prabhupada's letters, his return letter, because they're so beautiful. Like to see how much like it really helped me see like how Srila Prabhupada was such a father figure to all of his devotees, and how much time he took for even the most insignificant letters the children were writing to him, the devotees that had like really ignorant questions or whatever. He would go out of his way to respond to every single question in a so like fatherly way, such a loving way. And it was an opportunity as well for me to see a side of Srila Prabhupada, because when he gets on the Vyasa-san, he's like the commander in chief, and
yeah,
he's just like telling it how it is, and like it's just like really just ensuring that he's like you know so like laser sharp. Whereas like the mood that I get through reading these letters is so tender and so
personal.
just so nurturing, so beautiful, really. Um, so and that concludes where kind of my Bhagavad Gita experience tonight. Did you have any other thoughts or feelings or anything that you want to share?
Well, two things. Let's stay in plate 14 real quick. So, um,
Okay.
so I was trying to understand the imagery going up from the bottom, right? So the left, we know what the plate is, the mirror. We were just talking
Yeah.
about that. And then we had the embryo in the womb with the tree. And so, and I liked the way you went with the class discussion to say, you're not always in full blaze. Like sometimes you are in full blaze, and then the fire starts dwindling, and you have to keep tending to the fire if you really want the blaze to keep going.
Yeah,
So I kind of
absolutely.
see that with the blaze going on, and but to me it's looking like a baby, like was the embryo, and then there could be like a young boy. So it's kind of like, and then there's like an image of a face. I don't know if you see it, but I see
Yeah.
eyes, a nose, and a mouth. And
Mm-hmm.
then it almost looks like it's like the devil, like a Christian way of interpretation of like a demon,
Mm.
like
Yeah.
challenging. You know, when the fire is so strong here, I was thinking it would be more like, oh, you're fanning the spark of the spiritual spark. And so now when the flame is so intense, I wouldn't think I would see a face like that. I would think I'd see an encouraging face. Like, if it
Ye-
was just the smoke and it was like, just kind of like barely there, then
Yeah.
it's like trying to keep you covered up like the mirror with the dust. But I wasn't sure why it was such a face of yeah, and it looks like, trying to harm the boy that's in the middle.
Yeah, the face looks really intense. And my understanding of, yeah, that's like the face of lust, the
Oh,
entity of
okay.
lust. That's my understanding of it. But
Okay.
I mean, if from what I'm seeing there, and I'm appreciating looking deeper into this, because, in relationship to the verse itself,
Yeah.
because if we look at like the figure, he does look younger, and and
Yes.
up top he looks older.
Yes.
There's like an older person there, but
Yeah, it seems to be elevation. Yeah.
down here in the flames, he doesn't look like he's in pain at all. He looks like, he's relaxed. The expression on the individual's face.
It looks like he's looking
Um,
out, like he's looking, searching for something, like he's looking
right.
in the distance.
Right, like if the flames were flaring around him, maybe he's putting his hands up so he can see,
Ah,
to block his eyes from such brightness.
yeah.
I'm just speculating because
Yeah, that's cool.
you know what I mean? Like if you
Yeah.
get in the bright sun and you're
Right.
like trying to see in the distance, it's helpful to put your hands up and kind
Yeah.
of block a little
Yeah,
bit.
because you can see the shade that they're putting on the body when he put his arms up. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm noticing that, but you know what? At the top, I'm seeing like, okay, there's an older figure, and he's not covered by the smoke, and the fire is far away.
Yeah.
There's like the fire's far away. It's almost like the if he's in the fire, and the lust is surrounding him, and he's maybe not like he's
Entangled.
yeah, he's entangled. It looks like that's maybe what's happening. And then up at the top, the fire of lust is far away. And but it's an interesting, like, position, and I don't know if like the image were bigger, if you could see the expression on his face, but
Right.
his hands are down to his side, and they're out, the arms
Yeah.
are out. It's like I feel like I'm and I called Mother Jonava today because she
Oh,
was directly involved in painting these paintings.
nice.
So, but I couldn't get her, and I'm intending to get with her and like, okay,
Nice. So you'll get some
help,
clarification.
yeah, help me here, understand this more deeply, because I understand the verse. The verse is basically pointing out that if we use lust and wrath in our Krishna consciousness, and then it'll work for us.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm not fully understanding, because you went from like, okay, there's a flame, and then it is covered by smoke, and then you can kindle that flame and revive your Krishna consciousness. But the image of the individual standing in the flame doesn't, I don't know, I'm not sure if that's really the image of someone who is completely kindled their Krishna consciousness or not. And then I don't know, I'm a little bit kind of,
Yeah.
there's questions I have, it's just like the mirror with the beast. I want to understand that more. And then I want to understand, because I feel like these images could be such a beautiful preaching tool
Hmm.
if we fully understand them.
Yeah. Yeah, I
You know what I
agree.
mean?
But I kind of
Because
liked where you were going with it because so the boy is entangled with
yeah.
material consciousness
Mm,
and he's not engaged in it. He's kind of like you said, covering his eyes because of the brightness. So like I think he's in a thought of what do I do?
mhm.
Like considering, but not in anxiety, but like, and then maybe it's the man at the top of the page is not entangled in material consciousness
Mm,
because like you said, he's so far removed from everything and he seems to be at peace because his body isn't exhibiting what we can see from the picture, um,
yeah.
any stress or
Yeah,
fear.
it doesn't look like he's stressed out, but
Yeah.
I'm also kind of wondering, what is he doing?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know what he's doing either. Yeah.
Yeah. It's, I would think what I would, I mean, my logic would think that that person at the top would be like standing like,
Yeah.
with
Right.
a ray of light,
Yeah.
a ray of light coming down on
Yeah.
him, and he's all illuminated. He's like,
Right. Yeah,
something like that.
or
But
like even hooray, hooray, even doing,
right. Yeah,
not even having to say the beam of light, but just, joyful in service.
sure. Yeah, like a celebration. But he's like,
Yeah,
it
it's
seems
hard.
like kind of a neutral mood.
Hmm.
That's what I'm seeing. But you know
Yeah.
what? Well, I guess we're being videotaped. But I learned yesterday that I need glasses for up close reading.
Ah, yeah, that helps too. Yeah, your eyes
I
are the same. You
I
need
didn't
like,
even know it. I was at my friend's house and he's like, "Oh, read the label on this because I can't see it." And I'm like, "I
I
can't see
can't.
this either." And he gave me a pair of glasses. He got out of it. He's like, "Put these on," and I was like shocked. I was like, oh, I was like, "This is I can see." And it yeah. So that's new for me.
Yeah, that
You know,
happens. That happens, and it is no warning. You're right. It's just instantaneous. It's just one day you just don't see.
yeah, is seeing clearly that this is the dying process. My body is, it's shutting down. It's
Yeah,
degrading.
it's degrading. So
Yeah.
yeah, so I'll be happy to hear back from you if you'd like to share when you meet with Mother Geneva. I think that would be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I intend to talk to, as many devotees as possible about what their understanding of it is.
Nice.
Just to have like, multiple insights on it. Cause it's like I feel like, you know, like I said, these pictures were painted in specific way and for
Yeah.
a specific reason. Um and
You
I
like
like these analogy pictures. I think they're really great for preaching.
Yeah, so that was going to be my other comment to you is that I really like that you are attracted to plate 22 because of course your initiated name is Garuda.
Oh,
So like
well, I'm the servant of Garuda. I'm just
yeah,
his servant.
yeah, of course. But
Yeah.
it's to me it feels very personal to connect with this plate, and as you said, possibly next time you approach somebody on the streets to say I have a Bhagavad Gita for you, then instead of
Yes.
doing the other plate 23, you might go to plate 22. Even
Yeah.
though you may not share with them that that is your initiated name, but at least
Yeah.
inside it feels like it would resonate with you. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, a little bit of my process was like, like, oh, why was I named Garudadas? And I'm like, okay, well, you know, that's actually a really nice name because it's like the Garuda is the airplane of Vishnu, and Garuda delivers. He kind of like carries Krishna all around and Vishnu all around, and it's like, okay, well, I'm the servant of the carrier of, so it's like, and I'm acting in that same context, since I'm the servant of Garuda, then I can act how he acts, right? I'm delivering Krishna and
Nice.
Vishnu, around. And I like that, like, just that idea that like, me going out and distributing books is like, it's distributing Krishna,
Hmm.
Krishna consciousness. And
Nice.
so I think it's fun. Garuda Das, it's a fun name to have.
Wonderful. Yeah,
Yeah.
those are the two things that I wanted to share with you. So, yeah, I appreciate being with you this evening and being immersed in your process, and that you're finding ways of how you're stretching yourself and meeting people in the streets. And like I said, it was a little stretchy for tonight, but it's not as stretchy as going out in the streets. And so that takes yeah, takes humility, and also like just giving up to surrender. Like I like that divine intervention. I feel like it's like divine intervention when you push yourself to go and then you have such an amazing experience. And it feels like when I'm with you, especially the last time we were together in downtown Gainesville, it was just so natural for you. It just seemed very natural, and then you made such a nice connection, and so that was really beautiful to experience and witness. And so yeah, I'm just I was just appreciating you and how you're stretching yourself.
Thank you very much for that feedback. Yeah, I appreciated your association as well going out. It's so comforting to be in your presence. You have a very comforting presence and non-judgmental and just very easy to be with you and supportive to be with you as well. And yeah, I did want to share one last thing about, I was thinking about my own life with lust and, love for Krishna. Um, so like my love and appreciation for Srila Prabhupada and Krishna is going out and sharing in the public, you know, chanting holy names and distributing books and how like I feel so expansive after that experience and uplifted and like enlivened and curious and like there's all these qualities that come from that activity. um and then I'm looking at my own life where my lust for like I have a little bit of fascination with bike parts and accessories and upgrades because it enhances the experience. Mountain biking I'm describing, and I notice when I get like, oh, if I get that part and then I'll have this experience, and then I get that part and I have that experience, but then it's just like, uh, and then it's like, well, I need this next part now to have this new experience that'll be even better than that old experience. And so it's like this, like constant process of like being disappointed, being being disappointed that it's it's just like dead. It's almost just like, oh, well, that's not that, and in seeing like because I'm like lusting after these material things that like are it's like, you
You
know,
thought that was going to bring you your natural high, but it really is the going out into the streets of Gainesville that gives you that natural high.
it's no
Like
comparison.
no
It's no
comparison.
comparison.
Yeah.
And what's interesting too is like the biking part. I get all like, oh, this is gonna be great. It's gonna be great. It's so easy. And I'm like, I can't wait. I'm so excited. And then the opposite of like going out to do chanting and books is like, oh my God, here I go. I can't do this. I don't want to do this. I'm like completely the opposite, but I have completely, it's so weird. But then I have the opposite experience. The aftermath is completely different. So it's like, it's just interesting how the things that we lust for a lot of times in our life are so like tastefully tangible and exciting and in just easy or something about it. But then, the results of it are kind of dead. Unless you
Not
keep
satisfying.
unless you keep going down that road. It's like, well, if I had more money, and then I'm like, I'm out of money, I can't spend any more money. I'm like, I need that money to put in my children's teeth or whatever. It's like there's so many things in family like to invest money in, and then I'm like, I gotta make more money. It's like so I can have this thing and have this experience. It's like, really seeing like the difference, the quality of the experience. And how supportive it is to see the contrast in them both, the difference of like putting my lust into my senses and putting my lust into serving Srila Prabhupada and serving Krishna
Jai.
and the results of that. Thank you very much for your association tonight. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Bhagavad-Gita ki jai.
Jai. Hare Krishna.
Sankirtan ki jai. Hare
Jai.
Krishna.